今から200年前に伊能忠敬が日本中自分の足で歩いて地図を作る、測量するってことをやってました。今は誰でもスマートフォンを持ってもう GPS が入っていることが前提、いつでもどこでも、緯度経度を GPS 使って取得できる、その場所の情報をどうやって使っていくのかということをこれからみんなで考えていく、それが一億総いいのかという言葉です。実際にドローンの中に GPS って入っているので、ドローンがどこ飛んでるのかっていうのは全部緯度経度で管理されたりします。いろんなデバイスがこれから自動運転で車とか変わっていくので、そういった車が当たり前に街中を移動していく、そこにやっぱり地図の情報が大事になってきます。今はドローンを世の中に役に立つように使うというところで、災害が起きた時に自分たちがドローンを飛ばして被災地の地図を素早く作るということをチャレンジしています。今一番持っている高いものが700万します
総合的にやるゼミなんで動画もできるみたいな、動画を作りながら地図も研究できるみたいな、社会貢献しながら動画を作るっていう活動をしています。
YouthMappers っていうのはまず世界各国の大学、カメラ見ちゃうわ、世界各国の大学にあって、で日本で初めて立ち上げられたのがこの青山学院大学で、海外の国際会議にも登壇したりして話してます。
このゼミのやばいとこは機材が多すぎて研究室が狭いところですかね。まず何でも自主的にいろいろやっていいよみたいな先生なんで、ゼミのテーマに沿って好きなように活動してます。
Okay, so now 6:30 p.m. So welcome to OpenStreetMap online meetup, and actually the real venue. So we collaborate with a few members. So and now I have to check the today's my student talk. I have to change the permission to panelist. 誰が発表するんだっけな。植松と、あと、太夫と、あと、渡るが来た。じゃあ、渡るこっち。誰が発表？僕、太夫。じゃあ、ズームにつないでもらって、OK。ズームの URL 分かってる？もう一回送っとく。OK。じゃあ、今、チャットで送った。OK。welcome everyone from the many countries. So yeah, today we have the two guests from the Thailand and Germany, and also maybe many Asian countries member will join to this meetup. And today we are recording this video. So after this meetup, I will share the video, recorded video on the YouTube. So and also. Where your country? Philippines member will come. It's coming now, and yeah. So yes, let's start today's meetup. And 学生は今接続中。OK。そう。じゃあいいですか。はい。So today's real venue, so we are using projector, but we have to change the light. So I will. Okay, I will share my slide. Okay, はい。太陽に来てる。今トイレに行って戻ってくると思うんで。OK。So、はい、学生がチャットが来て、はい。 So today we will exchange about OpenStreetMap knowledge and ideas with actual OpenStreetMap contributors in the world. And my name is Taichi, and I work with Aoyama Gakuin University now. And also many times I have to teach about how to use, how to make good digital map data, or how to use good open source geospatial tools. Anyway, we are sharing many technique and idea to our students. And also I'm collaborating with Open Geospatial community too. And this meetup, so many sessions related like this: OpenStreetMap, Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, YouthMappers, UN side, and also we are collaborating with the drone community. The name is DroneBird. Anyway, so today we would like to share about. We would like to exchange each knowledge and idea at this meetup. So I divided 5 sessions. So the second talk speaker, my student will explain about the what UNVT and the UNVT Portable. So that is a UN vector type toolkit and so new idea collaborated with UN OpenGIS Initiative. And my student will explain. And second, so today's special guest from Thailand, so Mishari will explain about the state of OSM and other host community too. So and third speaker from Germany, so Danijel will explain about the earthquake and the OpenStreetMap. And so today totally our online meetup is just 1 hour, so very short time. But so because we have to move to the good restaurant after this meetup. So yeah, and 7:30 is a finish time. Yes, okay. And so today is limited time, so I have to share about just one thing. So February 6th, so Turkey and Syria's earthquake happened, and many OpenStreetMap community contributed the crisis mapping in both countries like this. So there are many tasking manager projects, and my student side and a lot of OpenStreetMap community joined to the tasking manager, and we are mapping now. So and yeah, that situation is serious, and we have and also before earthquake, so there are small little breathing data or other geospatial features, so we have to add a lot of geospatial feature data like the building or something. And also this experience is a very large project with the AI technology, Rapid tool. So already last year, Meta and other Microsoft company contributed a new editing tool. The name is Rapid, but so this crisis mapping. So we can use those new tools. So and already we shared our experience on how to use new Rapid tool in Japanese. So you can check in Japanese language, and also our students already hold the mapathon for the Turkey and Syria situation. So already this video published on YouTube too. And our data, inputted data from the OpenStreetMap platform. So many organizations is using those data. And this is the example from the UN OCHA. OCHA had the Humanitarian Data Exchange Platform, HDX, and this platform is providing each divided GIS layers data from the OpenStreetMap, so railways, health facilities, or the other building or something. So this is a very useful tool. And building polygon data provided from this platform, and many users and many local supporter is using those data like this. So this is an example at the local Turkey is the crisis response team, and they use our OpenStreetMap data for their actual works like this. And also this is another Turkey's members message, so you can check the QR code. And he said, so he is a rescue team, and they have to work as the actual earthquake disaster affected area, and they could use organic maps as an offline mapping, offline navigation tool on your smartphone. So many times, so their local activities and the local result shared to our community. And maybe if you have interest, so our friend Pedrito 1414, and he published those our data's result. So how to use those use cases in the actual area. So and now this is today's screenshot. So already this crisis mapping project, already we have over 8.2 thousand contributors. And maybe, many people know, so in 2015, Nepal's earthquake happened, and the total volunteer number is about 9,000 contributors. I guess, so we imagine that probably even more than 10,000 volunteers mapper will participate in this Turkey and Syria's earthquake, we think. So yeah, that is the introduction to today's main themes about how to share our data and how to work for the disaster situation. So, and next session. So we are collaborating with UN side, and so we are making new devices based on Raspberry Pi, and our student will explain about how to use and how to work UNVT and UNVT Portable for the many purposes. で、まだあれでパネリストの権限を。よし。ちょっと待ってね。Wait a moment。誰のマシンだ？渡る？どっちの？渡るをパネリストにします。直哉も一応。直哉、OK。渡ると直哉の一回パネリスト。OK、今パネリストの権限を出したので。で、準備ができたら俺マイクミュートするので、そっちのマイクオンにして喋って。
OK です。
はい、OK です。
そして。15分ですよね。
15分。
OK です。Thank you for joining us today. My name is Tai Ozawa. Today, we members of Furuhashi Lab at Aoyama Gakuin University will talk about UNVT and UNVT Portable. Okay. We will proceed with the program like this. We will have a Q&A session at the end. Firstly, what is UNVT? UNVT stands for the United Nations Vector Tile Toolkit. UNVT is a toolkit assembled for the purpose of creating optimal vector tile maps and is composed entirely of open source software. Put it simply, 先生、これがごめんなさい。Put it simply, UNVT is a toolkit assembled with the goal creating the best vector tile maps and composed exclusively of open source software. UNVT contains these four steps. First, product vector tiles. Second, styling it into the form of a map. Third, hosting the map so that it can be viewed in a browser. And fourth, optimizing it to make it better. A cycle of these steps will ensure that the vector tile is continuously utilized and improved. Let's look at each of these steps detailed. The process of generating map data is produce, get data from data providers that offer geospatial data as open software and generate it as vector tile maps. OpenStreetMap and the Geospatial Information Authority of Japan are used as main data providers. Okay. Instead, you can change the appearance of each item, such as color of roads, mountains, and so on. An example tool used here is Caritas. This software was provided as open software to the United Nations by Geolonia in 2021. Next, host. It's the process of putting the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files needed to create a map on a server so that anyone can access the information through a web browsers such as Safari or Chrome. By using the GitHub Pages feature provided by GitHub, you can host your website for free. Optimize is the process of improving data processing and rendering speed for publishing maps on the web. This includes lightning geospatial data, vector tiling to improve rendering speeds, and any other UI and UX optimizing work. Next we will talk about UNVT Portable. UNVT Portable is a product that uses UNVT's functionality to create optional vector tiled maps and has been improved so that it can be used offline environment during disasters. Put it simply, UNVT Portable is an open source web map server that offline environment. In times of disaster, offline environment often occur. Is the internet connected in the time of disaster? For example, Taichi earthquake in 2010. Earthquake in Taichi, only 11 of the population was able to connect to the internet. In the Tonga undersea volcano eruption of 2022, the undersea cables were damaged and the connection was lost for 5 weeks. Maps that can be used offline are needed in times of disasters because web maps have become a commonplace.
Okay, so in order to display web maps event in an offline environment, the technology called access point ratio is used. So UNVT Portable uses the open hardware Raspberry Pi, which can be used as a by so by receiving Wi-Fi from the Raspberry Pi, nearby digital devices can communicate using an intranet, and from there, the Raspberry Pi can store the data it receives. So then the Raspberry Pi can load the HTML file stored in the Raspberry Pi to view a web map. By utilizing the mechanism, geospatial information can be accessed even in areas where internet access is not available, as long as the UNVT Portable available. Wait a minute. Okay, so however, other way is emerging. So since the GSI are trying to do all the process of UNVT Portable, such as producing and styling on Raspberry Pi, so UNVT Portable is now diverging into two major uses. So next, we will explain how UNVT Portable can actually. So first, in order to connect UNVT Portable to your devices via Wi-Fi within an intranet, so you see the camera function of your device to read the QR for the connection. So then the UNVT Portable is connected to the intranet. So next, scan the QR code to access the HTML file in UNVT Portable. So then you will be access the web map even offline. So this is web video. So you can see this map even offline. Okay. So, okay. Here we go. So we now let us propose use cases for UNVT that we have come up with. So we have considered participants. So I propose a use case in Philippines. So Philippines has natural disasters such as typhoons, earthquakes, and floods, as well as social issues such as poverty and slums. So among them, I focus on natural disasters caused by typhoons. So according to database run by the University of Lund, more than 100 typhoons have been recorded in the Philippines in the past 30 years, the highest of the country. The extremely powerful typhoons Lai made landfall in the Philippines, so causing extensive damage to many areas. So during the typhoon disaster, web maps are important for evacuation, damage assessment, and recovery. However, it is highly likely that you will not able to access the internet in that case. So with Raspberry Pi, UNVT to create a server that can be used in offline environments. So residents can download and local maps from the Raspberry Pi on which the vector tiles are stored. So if the Raspberry Pi is set up as a Wi-Fi account, it can provide data to devices even when offline. And information photos, damage assessment, and evacuation centers can be input into these vector tiles to share necessary information in the event of the disaster. So thus, UNVT and Raspberry Pi can help share necessary information to various people in evacuation, recovery, and disaster management situations. And we introduce new topics. So until quite recently, UNVT was one of 6 more items in the United Nations larger 5-part framework for geospatial information called the UN OpenGIS Initiative. The importance of UNVT and UNVT Portable was recognized as the UN OpenGIS Initiative held in Italy in August 2022. And UNVT Portable was established as one of the state levels. So this will be recognized one of the initiative. So next we will discuss latest news and developments at UNVT Portable. So originally, UNVT Portable had no way to determine the current location. So how location information is very important, especially in time of disaster. So GPS receiver attached to a Raspberry Pi, allowing UNVT Portable to locate your current location. So GPS communicate with satellites, so it does not matter if you have an internet connection or not. So as an alternative to Raspberry Pi, M5 stack is getting a lot of attention. But since there is a display and UNVT Portable can also be dynamically displayed, it is very useful. So if this time of high performance, it is likely to replace the Raspberry Pi. Okay, so thank you for listening. And yes, thank you.
Okay.マイクをオフにして。はい。じゃあ、あと画面共有を。スクリーンシェアリング。Okay, thank you. Hi. Yes, so already we are developing for 2 years, maybe collaborating with UN side, and now we are updating the UNVT Portable. And this year, FuruHashi conference, global conference in Kosovo will come, maybe end of June, and we will already we submitted the UNVT Portable's workshop. So if we could success, so we will do the actual how to make UNVT Portable with Raspberry Pi. So if you have interest, please join to FuruHashi Global Conference in Kosovo. Yeah, thank you. And next session is a special guest from Thailand. So Mishari, so can you share your screen? And so now I mute. So please turn on your
Testing, working?
maybe.
Is the voice working?
Maybe.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Yeah, welcome to Japan. Yes, so this next session.
I need to share.
Please share the OpenMap community in Thailand, and also maybe Michelle has other good community to call the dojo or FuruHashi. So please share your experience and the idea. And yes, go.
Okay. You can still hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, I just wanted to say, konbanwa. はじめまして、ミシャリです。今日はお忙しいところありがとうございます。日本語はこれで終わり。あとは英語ですが、よろしくお願いします。Thank you. So this is a talk that I gave at FuruHashi Thailand in November 2022, and it was very well received. It is a topic that is not commonly discussed in the OSGO communities, so it is something that I would like to bring forward for your attention. So if you're building open source communities and you find that it is getting big, this is something for you to think about so that you can manage your communities better. So let's see. So it's the so these metrics is from something called the chaos framework. The chaos is an open source project. You can Google it. This is where the community is forming to create various types of metrics in order to be able to help gauge and manage the health of any given open source projects. The chaos framework is split up into five. I think the word was dimensions or groups, which is comprises of, first of all, it's the metrics is the common metrics. So this is things like contributions, for example, contribution code, finding bugs, reporting bugs, helping to answer questions, organizing events, etc., etc. So that is the common metrics, that is common across all the projects. Next is the value metrics, which talks about the value to researchers, to stakeholders, to organizations. So an example of this metric is the project velocity. So you can find out how the speed at which a project is progressing along. Because, for example, if you have the UNVT project, the UN is your stakeholders, and they might want to know when you will be delivering, right? So this kind of metrics is can be important for your stakeholders. The next one is evolutionary metrics. This is to show the changes over time. For example, the efficiency, effectiveness of the programmers, the process of writing code, solving problems, of growing growing your community. An example metric is the new contributors, the number of new contributors that is coming into your project. The next one is diversity, equality, and inclusion metrics, also pretty important because open source and especially OpenStreetMap actually has a reasonably bad reputation, right? Because it is often considered that that open source is for affluent white males, right? And so having a metrics for diversity, equality, and inclusion helps you be aware of this, and then you can manage it by bringing in more diversity into the project. So one metric is event accessibilities. For example, if we organize a state of the map, right? How accessible it is for people, for example, in wheelchair, or how accessibilities are the websites, the documentation, the event websites, for example. Risks metrics. This is all about the health. So what is generally called business risks, right? The project risks, the quality of the code, intellectual property, licensing, dependencies, etc., etc. So one example metric is the elephant factor. So how the elephant factor is basically, does one organization or any single person has an outsized contribution, right? So we see several open source projects where one person would contribute 80% of the code and then disappear, right? Or in some cases, we have seen them being jailed, right? So this shows how risky a given project is. So if you go to the chaos.community websites, there are many topic areas and you can go in and have a look. This is just an example of the contribution metrics. You can see there's personas, time to close, project velocity, issues, etc. So a lot of metrics that have been built up over the years, and this is an open source project. You're welcome to come in and join the conversation as well. So metrics, quickly about metrics and how to interpret them. So the chaos metrics describe the importance, attraction, and retention of developers for growing a community, and it can be checked by how many developers join and leaves. So this is an example of the Mautic community. You can see that that there are new contributors that is joining the project. It's normal and it's healthy for developers to join the project as well as to leave the project as well. But we want to make sure that the cycle is smooth and it's ongoing. The definition of a new developer is someone who has submitted code that has been accepted and merged during that time. So Drupal has a lot of they capture a lot of data, and this is an example of them. You can see that the number of contributors has been steadily going down by about 10%, and the number of organizations contributing has stayed roughly the same over the years. This is another metric, change requests, and you can see that this is the amount of requests that have been accepted. So basically, if you are a contributor and you submit a change request, ultimately you want it to be accepted, right? There is nothing worse than spending all the time putting together code for it to be either rejected or worse, ignored. So keeping track of those kind of metrics is important for your community's health and your community's morale. Right. And this is also interesting, change request direction, because you also don't want to wait too long for a contribution to be accepted. So this is a median time to merge, which is 3.974 days, a reasonable time. We can see that even though that there's COVID and the number of contributors that has gone down, but then the number of days waiting for a merge has been roughly the same, which means that the developer experience is still pretty good. Okay, so as a project, right, you face several challenges. So deciding on the right metrics, knowing what to do about metrics, knowing what is good and bad, and personally identifiable information concerns. So let us start with the and then on top of that, you face the technical challenges. Where is the data? You have a whole bunch of platforms where your data might be, and then also where your communities might be. All this is important in engaging health. Are your Slack channel? Are your discussions happening in an open space, or are they happening in the back channel somewhere? Ideally, in an open source project, all the discussions should be happening transparently in a public forum. But all this information needs to be captured and tracked. Capturing the raw data is an issue. Getting them for the data sources, find data, managing identities. managing identities is important due to privacy and personal data concerns as well. Then you want to calculate the metrics, and then after that, you turn it into a visualization and a report. So I think that because I don't have much time, I will skip these. But just roughly putting it up on the screen so you can see that there's there. Now this is important, right? To make a useful data, you have to be mindful of who the data user is. Is it the project owner? Is it the community? Is it the project sponsors? Who will be looking at it? The data, the information should be presented to them, and we should select how it should be presented as well in a way that is most meaningful, and most important and very important. You have to see what story does the data tell. All right. There's a few technical solutions for this. Chaos by Grimoire Lab and Cauldron.io. There's Chaos Augur, Apache Kibble, CNCF Dev Analytics. These are the tools, some of the tools that can be used. So to summarize, use metrics. Please start using them in your project. The earlier, the better. You start tracking them early so you can evolve the metrics over time, and you start getting used to managing your projects based on metrics. You can start with the easy to get metrics, certainly things like the number of contributions, the number of contributors. These are easy. Present the metrics in context, because without the context, the metrics are meaningless. And please be transparent with the community. Information, and they will have ethical concerns. So that basically concludes my presentation today. If you have any questions, we can connect. Otherwise, thank you very much.
So just one question chaos matrix analysis. So already did you try the visualize the OSM Thailand communities matrix data? No.
No, we have not. We have not applied it to OpenStreetMap yet.
You will, or
it is in the plans. We are, but Thailand being a relatively small community, it makes it difficult for us to do it on our own, right? So we are looking for partners who can help. So right now, like for example, we just talked to TomTom not too long ago. Let's see if they're interested or grab, because these organizations have the resources to host such a metrics. If I'm doing it, it will be, well, basically me, and I don't have the time or the resources to be able to sit down and do this. However, it has been used successfully in many open source projects, and I think that it's a good time to bring it forward into OpenStreetMap as well.
how many active members in Thailand this year?
OpenStreetMap.
Contributors. How many?
So if you look at the core contributors, right, the
yeah.
absolute core community comprises probably of no more than 10 or 20 people. But then if you count the organized mapping teams, then you will see that we have thousands of mappers. Yes. But the bulk, but the core community, the active, let's say the active community members, there's probably about 10 of us.
Do you know some this year's Turkey and Syria's press meeting from the Thailand community? If you had some information, how many contributors joined to?
I think that we didn't have any contributors because I was not. I was preparing to come to Japan. Or I was already in Japan. I was already in Japan when the earthquake hit. So unfortunately, I could not organize anything around it. And that is one of the problems with Thailand, right? There are only there are not that many active community organizers. Yes.
So in Japan's experience,
Yes.
the OpenStreetMap Japan's community
Yeah.
had some tipping point.
Right.
So 2011,
Yes.
big earthquake happened in Japan,
Yes.
east side of Japan.
Right.
So after that, we shared how to make the OpenStreetMap data.
Yes.
So so many people understand. So
Yes.
OpenStreetMap activity is very important. So
Sure.
I don't hope but if so Thailand, some natural disaster happened in Thailand, maybe a lot of crisis mapping contributor will join to the Thailand's mapping. So if that timing, so if local contributor,
Yes.
so they will provide very important tasking manager project of
Yes.
information, maybe we can collaborate. So
Yes. So in Thailand, we don't have any disasters. Well, very, very rarely. We don't have volcanoes. We don't have earthquakes. We had a tsunami about 20 years ago, and that was it. And it was very localized. However, we are trying to start up an open tech association in Thailand because contributing to open source projects, I think, is very important, right? For just Thai people. I think that it's a good discipline. There are a lot of tools available, and just being a user is not enough, does not allow you to take full advantage of the tool, to really understand the technology behind the tool. To be a good technologist, you need to be a contributor. And so we are starting up an open tech association in order to promote the contribution to open source projects. So we, at present, I have a project where we are doing visualization for the BMA. Sorry, do I have like 1 or 2 minutes? I just want to show this. It's pretty cool. If I can find the file. Sorry, give me a second. I just need to stop screen sharing for just a moment. So, right. Okay, so as you might or might not know, Bangkok as a city is not very well planned, right? So now we have a new governor who is interested in improving accessibility to public transport. So I have used OpenStreetMap to generate isochrones. In order to show accessibility to various subway and other train station, in order to be able to make a data-driven decision in order to improve access. So with this, I think that this is the first major project where decision makers, right, executives have seen the power of OpenStreetMap in order to conduct policy. Yes. So we are working on this, and we are working with other governmental organizations in order to provide data and data visualization so that they can see that OpenStreetMap is an important project, and we need to have more contributors in order to build up the data set to make things easier and better for Thai people. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, yes. Next session. So could you connect here?
Dr. Daniel's on.
Next session.
Mute. Okay. Does that work?
Yes.
Maybe.
Okay.
So let me share again. Okay. Working. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
perfect.
Great. Cool. So, okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Daniel. I'm actually a seismologist, but also a risk researcher, and I'm going to introduce you a little bit about earthquakes and how we can use OpenStreetMap to actually mitigate some risks. What I want to say at the very beginning is I'm introducing earthquakes and talking about earthquakes, but what we are doing here is valid for any other disaster or climate change effects. So, we're in the city of the Great Kanto earthquake that occurred about 100 years ago, and it was a really big disaster. And now the question is, what if this repeats? What if any earthquake happens? What are the effects of an earthquake to a community, and what should a community member to mitigate the risk? What can they do? But first, I want to give you a quick tour of the earthquake phenomenon. And it all started, the seismology really started in after the 1906 big San Francisco earthquake, where luckily there was a geodetic measurement before the earthquake that was repeated. And it became apparent that earthquakes actually occur on faults. That wasn't known before. It wasn't really understood in detail, but this fault was identified, the San Andreas Fault. And after the earthquakes, people have seen how something has moved, like this fence that you can see here. And this move, this motion is usually repeated. And here's a picture from the San Carrizo Plain, which I took several years ago. And you can see how a creek has been bent over millions of years by the motion of these two plates. Now, this helped us seismologists, to identify actually where are the sources of earthquakes. And here's a map of all the earthquake sources in Japan. However, there are still surprising sources. The Kobe 1995 earthquake, was actually changed strongly the building codes in Japan and actually made Japan way more earthquake resilient after this, happened at a location that was not foreseen. So we still have to deal with surprises. And other surprises are, of course, what happens with the underground. Here's the Loma Prieta earthquake of 1989, close to San Francisco. And what happened here is that all the areas, like this freeway here in Oakland, all the areas where the debris of the 1906 earthquake was put away and used as sort of new ground, it was thrown into the water, and they've created new grounds to build something on it, was the weakest. It was shaking more strongly. So this is basically what you see here is the shadow of the 1906 earthquake. So the debris of the 1906 earthquake has caused in Oakland and in the Marina district quite some strong damage, because this debris was not consolidated enough and the underground was weak. And the underground is actually a very important aspect for earthquakes. This sketch here shows you that there are a couple of different types that we have. We have sort of rock solid bedrock that usually has mild shaking, and we have the sedimentary basins where there's sort of a lot of sand and other things on top. They start to shake, and we even have what's called liquefaction, when you have sediments that are sort of soaked full with water. When they start to shake, then the ground behaves like a liquid, and the buildings can basically sink in. So this is why we don't use just the source of earthquakes as the hazard, but actually the effects of them. So this is the hazard map of Japan, indicating where the probability of earthquakes and subsequent strong shaking is the largest, and you see Tokyo is pretty dark red here. Now, to understand what this actually means for the population, we should move over to risk. And risk is the combination of the hazard and then the exposure and the vulnerability. So the exposure describes the building stock, the various kinds of buildings that you have in an area, and the vulnerability describes their reaction to shaking, whether they, will survive it or collapse or have different kinds of damage. Now, the problem is that we are dealing with rapid urbanization, so that means we have dynamic exposure And also we have dynamic vulnerabilities. This is very well seen in Tokyo, where the usual life cycle of a building is about 30 years, and it changes, and it's usually of better quality, better resilience. So overall, we have dynamic risk. So the challenge that we are facing, and as my team is working on, is actually to know every building. We think it will be helpful for a good risk assessment globally that we know every building separately, that we know where it is, how many people are in it, what kind of building type do we have, how vulnerable is it to various natural disasters, not only earthquakes, and what the value of the building is. So the challenge that we are actually facing here is we want to create a dynamic exposure model describing on a high resolution every building on Earth, and we want this to be dynamic in the sense that as soon as the building stock changes, our model changes, so that at the moment of an earthquake, we know exactly what's going on. The strategy is not very obvious, because usually for exposure modeling, you take some engineers, send them into a city, they investigate the buildings and come up with some sort of a summary of what type of buildings are there, etc. Obviously, we cannot do this. There are just too many buildings on Earth. So what we're doing here is a combination of a crowdsourced approach using OpenStreetMap and including engineering information through classical exposure models and so-called building taxonomies, so the descriptions of the building features and characteristics that are important to understand their vulnerability. The way we do this, we first start that we identify globally where the built area is. And for this, we put up a grid. And we use the quadtree grid at the level 18 tiles, roughly 100 meters in Europe and Japan, larger around the equator and smaller around the poles. And we put onto these tiles, which you can see here as squares, the global human settlement layers, an open data set, indicating where the built area is. We cut out the roads, so we have a first idea where the built area is. We enrich this with building footprints that we have from OpenStreetMap, so you can see here. And the first step that we have to understand what's going on is to estimate the completeness. We need to know where do we have the buildings already, because OpenStreetMap is far from being complete, and where do we lack buildings. So our automatic assessment here tells us that in the green areas we have all the buildings, and in the red areas there are buildings missing. This service we will very soon make public, so that there will be a website where you can go and you can see for every of these tiles on the world whether we're complete or not. Because OpenStreetMap changes continuously, we also have to change, we have to update this continuously, and for this we use Robotnik, sort of our assembly line, which is an asynchronous processing tool that works based on rules, and it updates our system or our model with every change of a building or a tile. And what are rules? So here is, for instance, a little food stand in Tokyo, and one of the rules is to estimate the occupancy, which we can do usually with the attributes that we find in OpenStreetMap. I have no time to go into details here. We can also estimate the footprint size from the geometry of the building. If we know the number of stories, in this case 1, we can also estimate the floor space. In this case, it would be 5 square meters roughly, because we use the footprint size times the number of stories, minus some percentage for walls and other building elements. We can also define the direction of the building, whether it's parallel or perpendicular to the road, the position, which means is it touching other buildings? In Japan, usually buildings are always separate and not touching, but in other countries, buildings are very well connected, and that gives us different stability in the earthquake case. We can also check for the shape of the building and for the roof shape. In this case, it would be a flat roof. The processing of our system works the following. We are updating from OpenStreetMap using minutely diffs, so every 60 seconds. We are processing all the changes and, as I said, algorithmically assessing all the possible building properties through our rule engine. And this is what this can look like. Here's an assessment of the occupancy types of buildings in San Francisco. I don't know, every building has sort of an underlying color, and these are the occupancy types from residential, commercial, industrial, educational, governmental, etc. Occupancy types. Now, how can this be used? Here's a probabilistic building classification that we have produced, where we, from all of these parameters and engineering information, which I'm not talking about right now, make an estimation of the different buildings types for each building separately in San Francisco. We let this Loma Prieta earthquake run over it, and here you can see the shaking pattern again, separated for each building, and you see that the shaking is potentially different for each building. And then we can compute the complete destruction probabilities, or for extensive damage, or for moderate damage, or for slight damage. And you see this all is increasing, and you see also that there are various details visible in this map. Now you can ask yourself, do details matter? Is it really important? And the answer is yeah, details matter. First of all, these three cows in Kaikoura will tell you that it's very important where they were actually standing when the earthquake happened. But we see it also for buildings. Here's the 1964 Niigata earthquake, where you can see how on a very small scale, some buildings were affected by the liquefaction and were tumbled, while other buildings were standing firm without any further problem. Same picture in the Christchurch earthquake in New Zealand. The area in front of this river was very strongly affected by liquefaction, while the other area wasn't. And this is again the viewport of the camera, and you see that there's no buildings left anymore on the left side of the river, and this has been now marked by the city planning as a red area where they understand that there's liquefaction and you should not put any buildings there anymore. The other effects that make the details very important are the side effects, the underground, what type of underground you have. Here's the 1999 Armenia earthquake in Colombia, and you see again it makes a very big difference if you're on the left or right hand side of this road, because the underground is very different. In 2016, I've visited the Kumamoto area after the earthquake. Here you see the two kind of blocks that have moved. And another aspect, of course, are the buildings. And this building here didn't make it, but we can see from sort of our assessment, and this is something that would help in the post-disaster case. It was a 106 square meter floor space building. So you have immediately an idea what the average number of people were that you expect in such a building. And the buildings are in general important. As you can see here, one building is still standing, the neighboring building is down. So we need not only to understand what is the underground, what is the earthquake, but also what are the buildings, how will they react to the earthquake. And one important thing to do after an earthquake is to actually quickly figure out which building is unsafe. The ones that are collapsed are easy to identify, but the ones that are not collapsed, it is important to understand if they're safe or unsafe. And I visited also the emergency management in the Kumamoto area, and for them, another question was extremely important. And this is something that we can only figure out if we have very detailed risk assessments for an earthquake. There's the number of shelters needed, because you after the earthquake, you don't know how many people are going to need a shelter. So you have to have these computations that give you a rough assessment of what happened to the single buildings, how many people are affected, and then you have to have, of course, some sort of experience, how many will go somewhere else, how many will stay and need some shelters. Our model currently on the building scale is covering Europe, some parts of South America, Japan and Vietnam. And we're moving forward with the blue countries, and for the red countries here, we're still looking for open exposure, classical engineering information that we can put together so that we get a completely global coverage of everything. So if we go back to the Great Kanto earthquake, I can show you this is a predictive damage assessment, what would happen if the Kanto earthquake repeats today. I don't know why it's not showing. Oh, here it is. So the darker the color, the heavier the damage. And again, you can see this is not equally distributed, and it can be of great help for the city planners the disaster managers and policymakers to know what they have to expect. So exposure data, as a summary, is helping in earthquake resilience and preparedness planning. It can help us to do rapid loss assessments and high details. And if used correctly, it can increase the risk awareness and understanding of mitigation measures. Now, being here at an OpenStreetMap meeting, what we need, what would help to make this better, and any piece of it is always increasing our precision, is building data. So we need the detailed footprints and, very importantly, the number of stories via building levels, which gives us an estimate how big a building is and how many people are inside. And also the value, the economic value that the building carries. It is very important for us to understand the occupancy, because the occupancy tells us whether people are during the day or during the night. And so this can be done via the building parameters or building use parameters or POIs. And it's also nice if we get these kind of so-called simple 3D buildings that we learn about the roof, the material, etc. And with this, I end. I thank you for your attention. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. So, any question and so I have just one question. So, still in Japan, OpenStreetMap data set. So the center of Tokyo, we completed the footprint, but around Tokyo, urban area. So still we are working, but still empty area is there are many empty area. So yeah, I hope so. We should complete the whole Japan areas building footprint mapping. So and now we are collaborating with Japanese government side too. So and how to say, any idea from the German side, because already Germany country area already almost major geospatial features included building footprint and other major features completed, I think. So
I have tried to find unmapped areas in Germany and I couldn't. I mean, there may be some patches somewhere, but I was looking into the building completeness, not on other things. But apparently, this is all in. It's all in. And Germany is a bit different than Japan because this was actually a volunteer work. What we are now preparing is we're looking into the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, they have a public building data set that was imported to OpenStreetMap. And the good thing there is that also the ID of that very public data set was imported to OSM. So, because the public data set that is still there gives a 3D description of the buildings. So what we are going to do now for the Netherlands is we take the building footprint from OSM and then link via this ID to the official data set and get more information about the roof shape and things. So my suggestion would be, if you do something like this, keep these IDs, keep the link of the building in OpenStreetMap to the building data set in the governmental public data. But I think you were also asking how to, get all the data in, right? I don't know.
Another question. So
well, the problem is you already have data in. So these imports is always important that you value what others have already done, and you just don't go ahead and say, okay, let me delete all the buildings from Japan and just put the new ones in. So it needs to be done on a case-by-case basis, and I think the best would be to do something like rapid or using these kind of tools. I think that would be the very best to do.
So okay, yes, I understand. And, so another question.
That will help.
Another question is so many times we can compare the actual activity in each country's OpenStreetMap mapping. So and but in Japan, we can check and we can compare the OSM stats platform and
Yeah, I can show you something
daily
here.
active mappers number of daily active mappers in Germany. So that average number is about 500 mappers per day.
Mhm.
And in Japan, we have around 100 active mappers per day.
Yeah.
And maybe I guess Thailand is 10 or 20 mappers per day. So, and so general activity, I think that time series is growing, but sometimes that the number will change to down, so direction. But German community is keeping about 500 mappers per day. That is unbelievable from our side. So how to keep those activities? What is a motivation?
Honestly, I'm actually surprised. I always thought that the reason why there's a lot of mapping, volunteer mapping going on in Germany is because Germans want to be precise and they want to know all of these and they want to do it the right way, etc. But that's something that the Japanese also do. But here it seems that I almost don't know anybody in Japan who knows about OpenStreetMap. As soon as I start talking about it, they try to connect us to Google Maps. So this is, I think, something that is the same problem here that you have in the US, that people are very attached to the big brands. So it's Google, it's GitHub, it's whatever, you know, and so the doing something for the open or for the alternative is not very. It's not going on very much here, and I see the same in the U.S. In Europe, there, because of data privacy issues, a lot of people are very aware of, you know, not using Google Maps, not using GitHub, not using Zoom, in fact, and others, and they try to look for solutions, and so they're more engaged in doing something that does not attach them to these big companies. Here you see actually in green are the buildings that have been updated the last 3 months in this area. And only one last month here, if you can see my mouse here. So it's not really that much. And this is, I can here in Shibuya a few more.
Yes, so yeah, Shibuya is very.
So I think you should advertise Street Complete and these kind of tools a little more. They are very, you know, low barrier entry to OpenStreetMap.
We've had some excellent progress with Street Complete, as well as any door. Or is it every door?
Every door.
Every door.
Yes.
Yeah, this is a super helpful tool.
And in fact, Grab has been getting their delivery guys involved with Street Complete as well.
Taichi, you remember I was walking from Yoyogi Uehara, oopsie daisy, this is down to the Kumaba campus. Oops. And then I used Street Complete, and you can see where I walked.
Yes. Okay, yeah, thank you.
More people in Japan should be doing this, I guess. But I think it could be helpful to create some products that are important, like in Germany, very strongly used as the wheel map, and that raises awareness, and then people are more willing to contribute when they see that there is a use.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, please mute your microphone. Okay, so today's session is that's all. So any comment or questions? Or yes.
I'm interested in the map about the forecasting how the building will be damaged. Kanto Tokyo area.
Yeah.
Is it publicly available? I mean, anyone can see that?
That's the problem. These kind of things I can't really make publicly available because there is, in a way, public, private identifiable information in there. I mean, if I take this map and make it public, 5 minutes later, every real estate agent in Tokyo is going to jump on that. And so
It will be effective.
yeah, and this is I've extra just had these colors, and I'm not writing what they mean, and I'm not saying exactly what the earthquake looks like because this it's a no-go. I cannot do this. But you know, if we talk to a disaster manager or somebody, then we can show these things. We can also run a lot of different versions of this because there is huge uncertainty in what is really to be expected, and then you get some sort of a risk map. But even the risk map, I wouldn't deliver on the building scale. This is not possible. Unfortunately, I would like to do it, but it is impossible.
Yeah, because if it's publicly available, I mean, it will be one of motivation that to contribute to the open source, OpenStreetMap maybe, because it will improve the accuracy.
Yeah, what we do is we create maps on an aggregated fashion. So we use the tiles, and then if the tiles have too few buildings, we create larger tiles, and then that at least give you the idea that okay, in this area it is pretty dangerous. But you cannot derive any information about a particular building. That's important. But this would help. And the good thing is the way the model works is if you change something in OpenStreetMap, so let's say you want to know what's going to happen to your house. So you put in the number of stories and the material or something. Then this data set goes to OpenStreetMap. It stays there. OpenStreetMap needs about 5 minutes to produce a minutely diff. Then it comes to us. 2 minutes later, we have updated our exposure model. And then we can run a new loss calculation for that particular area, and you will have a different result that will reflect what you put in. The code is open, the data is open. If you want to do this on the building scale, you can. But if you publish it, it's your problem. Not mine.
I can know.
But
quickly, we have one of Asia's largest open source events happening on the 13th to 15th of April in Singapore, FOSS Asia. So if you're interested in attending, please go to fossasia.org and sign up. Everyone's welcome, and it will be fun to see all the
Hi, that's all. Thank you for coming today. And so today's recorded video I will publish next tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. So anyway, so thank you for joining. And yes, はい、ありがとうございました。See you next time, maybe. Yeah. Michelle will leave next month from Japan to Thailand.
Yes, on the 6th of April.
And Daniel will leave next week.
next Sunday.
Next Sunday you have to back to Germany. Yeah.
Terrible.
Thank you for coming and see you next time. Yeah. Hi. Thank you.
古橋研究室は地図、特にデジタルな地図を作ったり、それを使うということをいろんな形で実践しています。特に地図を使うとなると、フィールドワーク、外に出かけることが多いので、アウトドアだとか、また情報をデザインするというところも含めていろんな活動をしています。今、古橋研究室が力を入れているのがデジタルツインというキーワードです。3次元の都市をどう地図に落とし込んでいくのかということで、国土交通省のプランと東京都と一緒に取り組んでいます。
YouthMappers AGU は地図作りの活動を中心に社会貢献を目指しています。最近ではウクライナから国外へ避難する方々の生活やそれを支援する活動の基盤になるような地図作りをしています。
私たちデザイン部は最近ですと 3D モデリングするアプリブレンダーというものを使用してエアロボウィングというエアロセンス車のドローンをモデリングするという活動を行いました。それがこちらです。これを研究室にある 3D プリンターで印刷してドローンの模型を作って子どもたちに喜んでもらうという活動を行いました。
我々が目指すゴールは、1億人の日本人、そして世界80億人の全ての人たちが当たり前に地理空間情報を使う世の中、一億総移能化社会を作ることを目指しています。
古橋研究室入ってねー